So today I am going to go to the Oregon Cascades, specifically the Molalla River corridor and up in that area. That area has some really beautiful land, some great formations, and it's a really underrated place. Unfortunately, back in 2020, it was affected by the massive fires that happened in that area that burned between two fires that merged over 400,000 acres of land. It's still pretty incredible up there, but a lot of that was locked down until last year, and it reopened. And now, I mean, it's somewhat reopened. You can go up into a lot of the places. There's still gates and stuff, but the main roads up there are now open. You can go up there. Now, the reason why I want to go up there is because I want to see what it looks like since the fires happened. I've already seen parts of it, specifically in the Molalla River corridor, and I'd like to revisit it again, especially today. I want to see if there's any growth that's happened since then. I also want to check out a lookout tower up there and kind of see if I can get a good view, fly the drone around and get some cool shots of maybe some of the burn areas. And so there's also some really amazing geologic formations. There's one specifically I want to check out and show you guys. It's really awesome. Yeah, hopefully it'll be a cool video, and hope you guys will like it. So let's see what we can do. I'm going to drive up there right now. The area I am exploring in this video is a portion of the Western Cascades of Oregon. It is also called the Old Cascades, primarily because it's a subdivision of the Cascade Range, which contains older, more deeply eroded hills than the east side, which is more active with fresher volcanic rocks. On the map here you can see that all of the Cascades' iconic stratovolcanoes and active volcanoes are on the east side, or in the High Cascades. The reason is somewhat complicated, but when the Cascades originally formed over 40 million years ago, they formed more west, and about 17 million years ago, the range shifted more east to where the activity is today. This portion of the Old Cascades is somewhat unique, because Columbia River basalt flooded the lower levels in the river valleys. As a quick refresher, Columbia River basalt is what makes up much of the bedrock along the valley floor. Between 7 to 15 million years ago, deep fissures in eastern Oregon related to the Yellowstone hotspot oozed out incredible amounts of dark chocolate cake basalt. Some of the flows were great enough to flood down the Columbia River and even make it to the ocean. The Old Cascades is also highlighted by distinct thick Douglas fir forests. But in 2020, much of that was decimated by 3 large wildfires that burned much of the iconic local landscapes. Rare arid temperatures and strong east wind fueled 3 wildfires to grow massive and uncontained that burned over 400,000 acres. So here we are. We're up above the Molalla River corridor. But yeah, all this was burned during the fires of 2020. Right up through here, actually. That's Table Rock right up there. And if you look out this way, you can just see the top of Mount Hood peeking through. But as you can see, there's a good amount of regrowth going on here. It's been about 5 years or so since the fires. The yellow stuff in here is all Scotchbur. So it's a non-native invasive species that actually originated, I think they brought it in back in the 1900s at the Oregon coast of all places to help with the beaches there, and kind of got out of control and of course did things they didn't expect it to do. It's spread at this point this far into the Cascade Range now, and looks like it's growing now after wildfires. It's kind of interesting. So we're walking up to the lookout tower up here. There was quite a bit of rough gravel up here that we decided to park it. And I mean, you can kind of see just how really bad it is. The cars would not have made it up to this way, but it's a really nice view, and it's gonna be a pretty easy hike, just maybe a quarter mile uphill the rest of this gravel road, and we'll check out the view from the top. All right, we made it. Bit of a steep climb, but it's only about a half mile, so it wasn't too bad. A little winded when we got to the top, but nothing too bad. There's the tower. Still in pretty good shape. Amazing view of the mountains. Mount Hood is just that way. And of course, that's Mount Jefferson right there. And then off that way is the Three Sisters. And I believe that's Mount Washington as well. And you can actually see, there it is, there's the town of Elkhorn. Zoom in pretty good. You can actually see the river down there. That's the North Santiam River. And of course, you get a wonderful view of the Willamette Valley out this way. You can see kind of the valley, some towns and stuff out there if you make it out, buildings. It's hard to distinct what exactly is what out there. You're kind of looking at it at a flat angle. If you're looking, you can see there's downtown Portland. What a view. It's crazy. But yeah, this is the view looking north. You can see Mount Adams in the distance, at least if you look closely. Of course, Mount Hood over here. But you can really see how much the fires were widespread out here. A lot of this was owned by logging companies, so they've come through and cleaned a lot of it up. There is still quite a bit of green. So that is actually Mount St. Helens, because that is Mount Adams. And lastly, that over there is actually Mount Rainier. Barely see it, but that is it. So you can pretty much see all the mountains from Mount Rainier all the way to the Three Sisters up here. Way down, I've noticed there's a lot of these really beautiful little flowers here blooming. I think they've already kind of bloomed a little bit. It is kind of early June. But I noticed up here that there's no Scotch broom. I mean, we're up about 4,000 feet, possibly higher. And if you look down here, you can see it down there. And that's a good several hundred feet, if not like 1,000 feet down there. But it's just kind of interesting. There's a lot more flowers and stuff blooming here. Up at the top, I saw some up there as well with the trees. So if anybody knows what these are, that'd be cool. Let me know. I think they're really cool. Get a closer look at them. Anyways, back to the cars. This area above Molalla and Scotts Mills used to be a major logging area of Oregon. Throughout the 1900s and up to about the 1980s, hundreds of trails were developed to reach nearly every area of the older Cascades. Though much of it was private land owned by logging companies, it was still accessible to the public. Because there was no main road or highway to major civilization, Molalla Forest Road was created as a major paved road that stretched from the upper reaches of the Molalla River corridor. The road went directly to the mills along the Willamette River, where logs were processed and floated from there. As logging decreased in the 80s, much of the route was abandoned and stripped away. The remaining road that went through Canby is now a walking path, with the original bridge still spanning over 99E near the fairgrounds. The portion above Glen Avon is now maintained by the state as a recreational corridor called the Molalla River Corridor, which is a popular local area for fishing and hiking and camping. The Molalla River itself is somewhat unique. Much of the main rivers that flow from the Cascades into the Willamette Valley originate from glacial melt. The Sandy River, for example, begins on the west side of Mount Hood's glaciers. The Molalla River's tributaries all began on the old Cascades where there is no glaciers. Because of this, the river is fed primarily from water runoff, which means that water levels are less consistent and water temperatures are generally more warmer compared to that of the nearby Clackamas and Santiam rivers. The corridor has some cool hiking spots and scenery, which is where we're headed next. That is the Columbia River basalt, and on the other side of the canyon you can see right there, that's where Shotgun Creek flows out of. So Shotgun Creek is up there pretty much and flows down across the basalt here and forms a nice beautiful waterfall that we're about to see. All right, we're here in the gorge, the Molalla River corridor. Some absolutely stunning views. I've been here a few times before. Haven't been here much since the fires, but it's still, at least this part, it's still all green. There's signs of fires that have gone through here though. It's sporadic, it's not like widespread. But I know the fires went through the little gorge that has the Shotgun Creek Falls that we're about to go to, so we'll go check it out. Entering burned landscape. Can I see it a little bit? Little mini fall right there. This is not the main falls. The main falls is up there. There it is. Thing I did notice about the waterfalls is over by Silver Falls, Butte Creek Falls, Abaquah Falls, Shelburne Falls on the Santiam. Those are all over basalt, but there's a lot of faults in that area. Tons of faults over there, lined up with the Mount Angel Fault and the Scotts Mills Fault. Over here, there's no faults. Based on the map I was looking at on Backseat Geology, there's only one fault, and it goes right through this canyon here where Shotgun Creek is. And what do you know? There is a fall here. So maybe there's something to that. All right, this is the sketchy part. There's the lower falls. Let's make our way down here. Safely. So here we are at our other stop along the Molalla River in the corridor in this absolutely stunning little canyon here. As you can see up there, the fire swept through here, but it preserves some of the greenery here in this canyon. But the basalt is what we're looking at here. Just some magnificent formations. It's all sideways, crooked, on its side, and it kind of lays down. The river kind of goes right over it. And you get a nice reflective pool, and it's just really amazing looking. But there it is. It kind of forms like a little eye right along the riverside. Walking along the riverside trail here. Just a deep, narrow gorge where the river kind of is really peaceful through here. There's more Columbia River salt formations. All right, that area was pretty cool, but we're gonna go further upstream, check out a little more of the burned areas, and then we'll get out of here. It's starting to get late. So the water level is still pretty good, like still pretty up there. But I wanted to see this part because there's these big chunks of rock. That's the basalt, just big chunks of basalt. It didn't come from here. See, this is all up here. So this must have come from upriver. And there's even a bigger chunk. Let me see if I can try to get there. Right there, that's lying on its side. And these came from upriver. So there had to have been some pretty intense floods to bring those rocks downriver and stack them there. Some of them look like they've been there a while, but we have had a lot of torrential rain, particularly in December. We had a dry spring, but there was a pretty wet December. The river level was really high then, but regardless, when these got here, they're still pretty big, and it's pretty impressive to show how much the river has pushed these rocks down here. As you can see now, we're kind of approaching more of the burn area. The hills up above are pretty barren. All right, and this is more what I wanted to see. Just widespread. This is where the fire swept clean through. We're kind of up higher now. But you can really see how the fires just swept through and took out every tree. Closer you get toward the river, there's a few more trees standing with needles still on them, but all these up here are just gone, wiped out. And you can see this way up further for miles. I mean, look at the hillside right there. It's all taken out. And like I mentioned earlier, this goes on for miles and miles and miles, dozens of miles, way up toward Mount Jefferson, past Detroit Lake, all that. It's a pretty big fire. And shout out to the Forest Service and the logging crews who went through and cleaned a lot of this out to make it drivable again. Anyways, that's what I have for you guys today. It's just one of my favorite places to go. You just go up in the mountains and chill. And it's so cool to be up here and, you know, still be able to hear all the birds and everything in the river. And that's what I'm going to leave you guys out with, some few clips here to end the video. Thanks for watching.